there! So I'm going to go over my Just for Fun project for my Premiere Pro workshop for summer of June 2019. If you participated in my workshop, this is the second part that we didn't get to, my bonus fun advanced part for those of you guys who just really had to learn some extra stuff. So the first instruction is basically to start another sequence. Now you could continue on from the previous project. I've just started a new one. My sequence has the same settings, 1080p, 30 frames per second under ABC HD. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK to create that sequence. And so over here in my project window, you can see I've already imported the clip that we used in the previous session called Jump into Water. We are going to be using that clip several times on here. So I'm going to go ahead and set some in and out points. I'm going to double click this so it will open up in the source monitor. And then set some in and out points. We just want basically the first 3 seconds, the group that's jumping. So I'm going to come all the way to the beginning. I'm just going to set an end point from the very beginning. And then there's that group jumping. So right there, it kind of ends. There's my out point. So this is the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to drag this in onto video 2 because we're going to put something else on video 1 in a bit. Now, it does say this clip doesn't match the sequence. And as I say in the instructions, this is a 720p clip and the sequence is a 1080p, but we're going to keep this setting. So we're not going to change it. We're just going to go ahead and leave it be. That means it is actually smaller than our screen. Now, if you're continuing on from the previous project, yours is already scaled because you would have already told the clip to scale. And I can do that now. Since I started a new project, I don't have that preference anymore. But we can just right click it and we can go to set to frame size here and it does that exact same thing. So now it does all fit into the window. So we've got all of them in there, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some lightning. So this is always a fun effect for students. You go to the effects panel, and I am in the effects workspace. Lightning is something that we generate. So it's a special effect that's generated. So if we click on video effects and generate, you will then see lightning. So you're going to drag lightning onto your clip and drop it. Notice lightning does indeed appear on here. In order to edit the lightning, as always, we're going to pop into the effect controls. You have to make sure you are clicked on your clip. Scroll down until you find that specific effect. And there it is. There's an effect for lightning. You can see how many segments there are, amplitude. So if you want it to be crazier, you can go that. You can change any of these things. You can even change kind of the color and so forth about it there, outside, inside color. I'm not going to mess with all these things, but there's lots of different things that you can change. If you press spacebar and it's moving all over the place. So there it goes. Kind of a bit of an intensive effect, so notice it is lagging, and we expect that since we see the red there on that timeline. But anyway, so there we go. We've got some lightning there. So once we're happy with it, we're going to move on and we're going to create some fat text to put on top of this and use as a clipping mask. We're going to take the type tool and click right onto the stage here. We're going to basically put some fat letters that say jump in, enjoy life. So I'm going to take my type tool, trying to get a hold of here. Here we go. I'm going to click on here and I'm going to type in the words jump in and then enjoy life. And then, of course, in order to edit this, you could come over to Effect Controls and edit from here. I personally like to use the Essential Graphics panel. I'm going to close down Effects, open up Essential Graphics. Just kind of click off of it and then click on it again. And then you can just scroll down here and make your changes. So it's already white, so that's good. I'm going to hit center so it's center aligned. I'm going to hit this button, which will center it vertically on here, and this, which will center it the other way. So now we've got it sort of right in there. And then, of course, you can choose whatever font you want to use here. I am on a really little laptop, so it's kind of hard to see all my font choices here. I'll just put this one. And then take your font size and up that You want it to take up as much space as it can, really, on our screen. Okay, so that's good. At this point, we're ready to move on. We are going to make the letters see-through, and we're going to generate a mask using keying and an option that's called the track mat. So again, I'm going to lock down my essential graphics. I don't need this panel anymore. Let's scroll up here. Open up my effects. Video effects, we're looking for keying, or of course you can always type in the name when you know what you're looking for. In our case, we're going to use a track mat. So I'm going to drop the track mat onto the video, not the text, the video. We're going to tell the video to use the text as its mat. So I'm going to drag this onto the Jump Into Water video itself. Okay, then I have to click on the video clip and then come over here and locate track mat. Now it's going to be down below your lightning. So for track mat, it wants to know where's the mat. In our case here, our mat is on video 3 because that's where the text is. So we say mat, video 3, and then bam, our text is now inside those letters. And if I jump in a bit because it's not rendered, but that's essentially the way that's going to work. Now, one thing that's kind of sad is you can't put like drop shadows or anything on these track mats. So that's kind of a bummer. But you can, of course, change your background by putting something on a lower layer. Now, one of the things that is kind of cool to do is to generate something. And if you come down here, you can click on your little new button and you can generate a color mat, which is basically like a color slide, like an empty slide in PowerPoint or something. You can also create a black video. But on here, I'm going to choose color mat. I think you can also go up here and create your color mat this direction as well. So anyway, when you click on that, it's going to create a color mat that's 1080p. You're going to hit OK. And then you have to choose a color. Now, I decided I was going to put just kind of like a yellow or whatever. The color doesn't really matter because we're going to throw a gradient on here anyway. So I'm just going to pick a gold color. And then you can name it. So I'll just name it gold mat. Or you can name it gold color box or whatever. So now I have a gold mat that I can drag in on a lower layer below all of that stuff. So now we actually have a background behind there. And of course, I probably are going to want to go ahead and pull these all in so everything lasts the same length. But there we go. So we've got all of those in there at the same time. Now at this point, I'm going to put a color gradient on top of that. And that's another generate thing over here. So I'm going to get off of keying and back to generate. And we have 4 color gradients. So I'm going to drag it and put it on my gold mat. That's what we're applying it to. Come over here, and then you can see it made a rainbow. But you can choose your colors. And I don't care what colors you pick, of course. But you can choose 4 different colors. On the example in the handout, I chose 4 different shades of yellow. So they're all in there. But you can choose any of those if you had like a picture or something, you could use the eyedropper on it. But you can just click right on here and then change it to whatever you want. So if I wanted more of a sunshiny yellow for that one, then I could do that. Or if I wanted a more of a pale yellow, I could, go over this direction somewhere or whatever. We'll just leave the blue. But that's basically the gist of it. So any changes that you want to make, you just make in effect controls. And there's other changes too, like you can modify the blend and the jitter and just kind of other things about the gradient. And you can't add any strokes or drop shadows to those. But you could, technically like make another layer behind that layer that's your actual text. Now that would require me moving everything up one, but let me show you how that might work. So I will have to move this up, move this up, move this up. Now that's going to mess up my mat because my mat is now on the wrong layer. My text is on 4. So I'd have to pop in here and find the track mat and set it to video 4 where the text is. Then I would alt drag and make a copy of my text and put it, I'm going to have to put it where the gold mat is. Let me scoot this over. So I'm going to put it where the gold mat is, put this in between. And then for this one, I could just make my text look different. So nothing super like complicated about that, but you could basically, make that text black, make that text a little bit bigger, if I go to my essential graphics and click on this text, I can make that text just a tiny bit bigger. See how it's like white and it's bigger? It's really hard to see over there. There, you can kind of see. So I've got a white one behind that one, or I could change that fill to, black or gray or something. And see, that kind of looks like a drop shadow, even though really it's just a copy of the text that's behind everything else. So anyway, that's that. So now to keep this tidy, because our timeline is kind of already insane, I'm going to go ahead and nest all of this. So I'm just going to select all these lines with my black arrow tool, right click, nest those, and you can name it if you want to. Mask jump footage. And there we go. Now it's all on one line. And then, of course, I could add cross dissolve effects so that when it goes to the next one, it's going to be, it's going to dissolve out. It's going to go out to black. So video effects, or video transitions rather, and then dissolve and cross dissolve. I'm just going to drag it to the end of this clip. So at the end, it would all fade out. All right, so that's the first one. Now we're going to use the jump into water clip again. So we're going to double click it, open it here. This time we want the clip of the boy doing the backflip, which is about 18 to 21 seconds. I'm going to scroll over to about that 18, right where that starts. There it is. I'm going to set my end point there and my out point after he falls into the water. Probably don't want those girls there. All right, there's my out point. I've got that there, and I'm going to pull this footage in. Again, I just need the video, so we'll just pop it on here. And then I have a hole there. I'm just going to right click and ripple delete. And then we're going to make copies of that. So we want to have 3 total copies. So I'm going to hold down Alt and drag once to create one copy, and Alt and drag once to create another. And now I'll snap these in here. So now we've got all these, and we may need to have to scoot them over or whatever here in a bit. And so that's fine. Now on the second clip, we're going to reverse it and speed it up. So basically, and again, I didn't have these all set to scale up. So go ahead and select all of these, right click, and I'm going to set them to my frame size so they fit the whole thing. Okay, so the first one, he's just going to jump in. It's just like normal, I'm going to jump in. The second one, we're going to reverse it. So on that one, we're going to right click and go to speed and duration. And then we're going to speed it up 250%. And we're going to reverse it. So you have to hit reverse. Now, notice here you can check mark ripple edit, which basically means when it makes it shorter, and this one's going to be like it's going to be short, like way over here. Ripple edit means go ahead and shift these other clips over, or this other clip over. So we're going to go ahead and check that. So it'll automatically scoot those, so it doesn't leave a gap behind. Okay, so there we go. You can see it's a much shorter clip. But I play the first one, he gets in there, and then he real fast pops out of there. Now, he was kind of already in slow motion, so it doesn't, maybe it doesn't look as great as it could. Okay, now we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to do another effect on this third clip, just to kind of give it another stylized feel. Under Video Effects, or again, you could type this in over there, but under Stylize, there's kind of a fun one called Posterize. You've probably seen Posterize in Photoshop. If we drag Posterize on, it's automatically going to make it look a little bit funky. We get kind of some weird color changes to it. But you can click on Effect Controls, find Posterize down there, scroll down to it. And I set mine to 3. I'm going to put 3 and press Tab. You can look over there and see. See, that goes much crazier. So the level is a bit different when we lower it. Now it's kind of got this real neat effect. Kind of reminds me of those superhero kind of things. All right. And that's pretty much that one. I'm going to add a cross zoom transition at the end because I think that one looks pretty cool. So here we go. I'm going to cross zoom. That's going to be under video transitions. And then zoom and cross zoom. And that's one that we haven't used yet. It's pretty neat. So we'll pop that on here. And then you can see kind of as it gets to the end, it like kind of pops right in there. So that's kind of fun. Okay, now we're going to duplicate the boy that's jumping, just the normal one. So he's the first one in this group of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and Alt drag it and put it next in the timeline. So it's over here. Put it next. Okay, and now I'm going to do kind of a cool freeze frame effect, and we're going to make an arrow fly in. So on the new clip, we're going to scrub to where he is mid-jump. It's kind of like, right, there or whatever, kind of stuck right there in that moment. And then we're going to right-click. So this is like the frozen area. And we're going to insert what's called a frame hold. So you can click on Insert Frame Hold Segment. And what that does is, notice it added on, like it added a little thing in here, and then it continued on. This is a freeze frame. This little 2-second part is what it inserts. So he starts his little jump, and then it stops for 2 seconds, and then it continues. So that middle is a freeze frame. Now, another thing that you can do, like if you wanted a certain place, like, say I liked this right here, this look. You can also hit this little camera button, and that would export, you name it, and you can put it in here. But that would give you another one that you could like drag in somewhere else. But if you're doing it in the middle of something, you can just use a freeze frame. Otherwise, you can name this, tell it to import it in project, it puts it here, and then you just drag it in. Well, that's what that little camera one does. Let's take the freeze frame in black and white. You can do that under Lumetri color, or there's also just a nice easy one under image control. So video effect, image control, and there's just literally one called black and white. I'm going to drop that on the freeze frame. So it goes, he jumps on the freeze frame, it goes black and white, and then he'll go back into color whenever he moves again. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the pen tool, and we're going to draw an arrow so that it's pointing to our little jumpy guy here when he's frozen. So the pen tool is over here. We're drawing a shape, so we're drawing a shape on top of everything. You can draw it really big because you can scale it down later on. I'm going to draw it real big. So click, 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 click. This is probably the best arrow you've ever seen in your life. Click, click, click. Oh, that's good stuff. Now you can pick these up and move them. So that's why I wasn't too worried about it. So you can take those little points and pick them up and scoot them around until you get it like you want it to be. Okay, let's say that's good enough for now. Okay, and so at this point, this is going to be, again, on that Essential Graphics, we can go and control that. So if you want to change your color to some other color, and I used, I think, some sort of a gold or a yellow, then you can make all of those changes in here. If you switch back to just your normal selection arrow, that's where you can scale it down. All right, so now we're pointing to our little guy here. We also want to make sure this graphic clip is only during him being frozen. So I'm going to scale that down or scoot that down and then resize it so it's just during that part. Now I'm just going to add some words. We're going to say his name. We're going to pretend his name is Bob. So I'm going to click my type tool. I'm just going to click over here and type in Bob or whatever you want to name him. Again, easiest thing is to come over here, click off of it and click on it, so that you're not like double clicked in the box. And then of course you can change your fill color to whatever you want and your size to whatever you want. So that's totally up to you. Now, if we click off and click back on, we can choose to animate the various parts of this. Now, right now, this is where this gets really confusing. When you click on graphic, if you come over here to this side in effect controls, you're going to see two different things. So here's the shape, okay, and then here's the text. So they each kind of have their own transform, position, scale. They each have their own on those, okay. So it's a little bit confusing if you wanted to make both of them move at the same time. We're just going to do the arrow just because I don't want to do it twice, but you could do it in two places. Just pay attention to know where you're at. So this text Bob, this is the one that down here at the bottom is where I would move Bob around. And up here at the top, where it's my shape, if I scroll down right underneath this one, that's the shape position, okay? I'm going to use keyframes to do this. So I'm going to go to the beginning of this clip. I'm just going to scoot this over. And I'm going to press the stopwatch for position. and it puts in a keyframe. So there is a keyframe. A diamond is in there. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a diamond right in there. Okay. Now I'm going to go about a third of the way over. And then I'm going to press the diamond button again. And that's actually where I want the arrow to land. So like that's the position I want that to be in. Now I'm going to hit this arrow to go back to the first one. And so now that I'm in the first position, I'm going to move my arrow off the screen. And you can pick it up and move it. Oops. If you have the right tool selected here, just double click it and just drag it off the screen. Okay. So there it is. And now if I scroll or scrub, my arrow will fly in. Now you have to be careful. You can't have this playhead between these two things, because if you pick it up and move it between those, it's going to lay down another keyframe. So if you don't like the position, click back to the first keyframe, and then you can go ahead and move this, like if I wanted it down lower or whatever. And now it's going to come more from the corner, kind of. Okay. And that's pretty much how that works. So that's basically it. Of course, you could nest the clips. You could add cross dissolves to everything, but here's what this would look like in its completed form. And then, like I said, you could add anything else, of course, to the end of it. If I wanted to throw just a little cross dissolve at the end or in between them, or any of those at all, then you could add any of those other features. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a watch. Again, it's going to lag a little bit with the lightning that's not rendered, but here's kind of what it should look like to add background music. We'll jump in with some lightning. Cross dissolves out. That happens. It reverses. It does that threshold effect. Cross zoom. We're pointing at Bob, and then he continues on. All right, fun stuff. And I hope that helps you with our fun in Premiere extra bonus segment.